All right. So Marlene, thank you very much for joining us today to talk about Speech Track 101. And I'm going to hopefully turn this over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, welcome everybody. Hello, Speech Trekkers. Thank you for joining us this evening. We have about 44 people coming in, and we're going to have a wonderful time together. Whether you're thinking about Speech Trek, just thinking about it, whether it's your first time or whether it's your 10th time, you are in the right place. We're going to cover the basics of Speech Trek. We're going to talk about a virtual contest, which is facing many of our branches this year. We'll give you a little history, and along the way, you might see Jerry Seinfeld, you might see George Jessel, these adorable twins in just a moment. We might even hear from Prince Harry about our topic this year. So we're gonna have a great evening. Grab your glass of wine, your cup of coffee, sit back, and enjoy yourself. Most of all, I want you to leave after the webinar tonight more inspired, more knowledgeable and more excited about hosting a speech trek at your branch. We think of oral communication as a later in life skill, but actually it starts much earlier than that. Sandy, take it away.
All right, here we go.
Okay, thank you, Sandy.
Alrighty.
Da, 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 that's what I call this. Well, my feeling is if babies can communicate like that, we certainly can so can we. A special welcome to all of the branches. These are the branches that registered at the time I was putting this together. I also want to welcome Morgan Hill and Merced's on there, I see, Half Moon Bay. Thank you so much again for joining us this evening. We're going to have a great time. So if you're looking for a program that introduces AAUW to the next generation, this is it. And if you're looking for a program that is cost effective, that invites diversity, that showcases your branch and is mission based, and that can be done virtually, this is the program. And we'll go into each of those details a little more deeply. Speech Trek does a lot for your branch. Those of you who have done it understand that. Those of you who have never done it may not realize it. There's at least 10 items here that Speech Trek does for your branch. First of all, it increases your visibility. And there are many people who may not know about you, your branch, or even what AAUW is, and Speech Trek is a great avenue for increasing your visibility. It also showcases your mission because our topics are always mission-based. And so that's a wonderful way to do that. And it encourages the community to get involved. Very, very important. And we do that because we invite people from the community to be our judges. So it's a great way to encourage community involvement and for them to learn more about AAUW and vice versa. And in this day and age, I don't have to tell you how important it is to encourage public discourse, public opinions on topics that are important to everybody, but especially of critical importance to AAUW and its mission. It also, and this is a great membership building tool, it introduces AAUW to the next generation. And I might add, not just to the next generation, but also to their parents. And I have witnessed the parents of contestants becoming members after the contest. So it's also a membership building tool for you. It's an amazing program. It's low cost and very high impact, but there's even more that it does for your branch. It also encourages research on an issue that's important to society, especially these days. And of course, our topic this year involves social media, which we'll get into a little bit later in our program. It helps high school students develop these critical public speaking skills. And these are skills and things that adults, I tell this to an audience every year, these kids are doing what most adults will never do, and that is speak in front of an audience. So it really helps them develop some critical skills that are not just professional skills, but life skills as well. It also helps develop partnerships. It also helps show democratic values and advances those values by encouraging, our public opinions, public discourse. My branch developed a great relationship with Toastmasters. In fact, Toastmasters actually produced our contest for a number of years. So it's a wonderful way to develop partnerships with other organizations in your community. And of course, it gives high schoolers a voice. And I think that's one of the best things it can do. And it's very encouraging. I have to tell you that when you hear some of these speeches, I mean, I've seen tears in the audience many times. And to be able to give the next generation a voice is very rewarding, to not just to them, but to us as well. But I think the biggest benefit of all, maybe, is that it helps them learn how to communicate, without their thumbs. Okay. And even they will tell you that they realize that they are addicted to their phones. And many of them are looking for a way to lessen that addiction and to learn to, or perhaps relearn how to communicate without their thumbs. So I think that's pretty much a great benefit. Helps them get off their phones and onto the podium. And it helps them, as our president says, our AAUW California president, helps them to be bold, to be brave, and to be brilliant. Okay, so let's go on to Speech Track 101, how to launch your contest this year. Some of your questions already came in. These were some of the questions that came in just as you were registering. And you'll notice that a lot of these do revolve around a virtual contest. And so because of that, of course, we're going to make sure we cover that in some detail tonight and answer any additional questions you may have. Go ahead and give me the next slide and I'll show you just some brief answers. How to conduct a contest, someone said, with schools in distance learning mode. This is the beauty of technology, and we will talk about how to use a video conferencing tool to hold your contest this year. The next question was, again, about a virtual contest. And once again, remember that we're going to talk about how technology can be your solution in a virtual contest situation. This was an interesting question. Can we cancel a contest after November 1st? You may know that November 1st is the deadline to let us know that your intent is to hold a contest. And yes, the answer is yes, you can cancel after November 1st with good cause. And I'll show you what that good cause is in just a moment. How can we safely conduct a contest during the COVID pandemic? Should we do it in person? Should we do it virtual? That will depend on your school district and their policies. And I know that things are changing almost every day in my area. Some of them are having hybrid classroom sessions. Some are doing it totally distance. Some are doing it in school, but distance. So, and it's a fluid situation. So, but we are going to address the virtual aspect because that does seem to be one of the best solutions we have to continue with the contest. But we'll discuss that some more. And let's see, how to present the program. Okay, same idea when our school district has distance learning. For sure, we're going to talk about that again. So you can see that technology is going to be your solution in most of these areas. The last question that came in very early was, are we required to use non-members to screen applicants? No. You may use your members for every aspect except as judges. And the reason for that is to, of course, eliminate any potential conflict of interest, but also to involve the community into the contest. And so we'll talk about how to recruit judges a little bit later in the program. So to address the question of can we cancel our contest after November 1st, I said yes, for good cause. So this excerpt is taken out of your branch toolkit under a section called Terms and Termination. And this is a Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU. And in that MOU, it does list that you or AAUW California can cancel for good cause. And so you see here A, B, and C. These are some of the causes, or what's considered good cause for cancellation. And if we continue on, you'll see a few more situations in which it's considered good cause for cancellation. Okay, so the only time that I have seen a cancellation really for good cause was someone lost their speech track chair midway through, and they weren't able to continue in that role. Inability to raise necessary funds really doesn't happen in speech track because there's only one fee, and that fee is $25. So we really haven't seen that that cause. So that's yes, you can cancel for those particular reasons. Okay. All right, moving on. So for those of you who may still not be quite clear on what Speech Trek is, let me explain it to you. So Speech Trek is an annual contest. It's held every year for high school students, boys and girls. High school students is defined as 9th grade through 12th grade. And we are in our 15th year. It started in 2007. And past topics, oh my gosh, since I've been involved as the state coordinator the past several years, past topics have been sexual harassment, standing up to sexism, is it time to pass the ERA was another topic. How can we eliminate violence aimed at our schools was another topic. And of course, this topic revolves around social media. This year, the actual wording of that topic, and you'll see it later, is, has social media helped or hindered the breaking down of barriers for women and girls? And it was a pretty hot topic when we selected it. It is really hot now. In fact, I mentioned Prince Harry. If time permitting, I'll read a little bit from his campaign about how social media is dividing us and its particular effect on young people. And it's quite interesting. So we'll get to that hopefully. So we're in our 15th year, and to date, we have given away over $47,000 in prize monies at the state level. So this is a very impactful situation, a very impactful contest, and we're very proud to have kept this going for the last 15 years. Okay, so moving on, just to make sure you understand what our mission is, and you can find this mission in our policies and procedures, which is on the website, and also on the website is our branch toolkit. So this is our mission, and we are very proud to continue to run the contest that reflects our mission of promoting gender equity issues among high school students, and they research these issues and they present these high quality speeches. So it helps them, it helps us, and it's a win-win all the way around. But the problem is that when I said students, are doing what many adults won't do, because you may remember that there was all these informal studies done over the years about people's greatest fears. And number 2 was, public speaking. And number 1 was, number 2 was death. What am I saying? Number 2 was fear of death. Right. Number 1 was the fear of public speaking. And so Jerry Seinfeld makes the joke that means if you go to a funeral, you're better off in the casket than giving the eulogy. And, that's true for a lot of people. I met a young woman who was very promising, had great career goals, and she took all her college classes except one. And you can guess what that one class was. It was her speech class. And she just could not bring herself to take it, very fearful. Therefore, she did not complete her degree requirements. Therefore, she didn't graduate. And her career took a whole left turn. And that affected her the rest of her life. On the other hand, I have witnessed time and again the growth people experience when they overcome this fear. I saw a man who stuttered uncontrollably MC his own wedding. I've seen a young man who had spent some time on the other side of the tracks, who began to tell jokes and became very comfortable delivering speeches. It's just amazing the transformation that takes place. George Jessel, I mentioned, he talks about how when you are born, the human brain starts working and then never stops working until you stand up to speak in public. And that a lot of people can identify with that as well. And these are funny little tidbits about public speaking and people's fears, but there are more dramatic examples of this. You may remember a book called I Am Malala. Malala was the young girl who was shot in the head by the Taliban because she stood up for education. If you've never read her book, it's fascinating. It's called, there's the title, that's the book cover. And in here, she says that she began to see that the pen and the words that come from it are much more powerful than machine guns, tanks, or helicopters. And that is extremely true. And I encourage you to read this book if you have not read it. More recently, those of you who may have witnessed John Lewis's funeral a few weeks back, oh my gosh, if you haven't, go online and listen to the speeches that were given. So amazing. And it was so amazing that it inspired a columnist to write in the Los Angeles Times about how it was a rhetorical masterclass, showing that great speeches still matter. And the line I love the most is on the bottom here where it says, it was like a sustained rainfall in the middle of a drought. And so it still matters. Words matter. Great words matter. And this is what you're teaching to the next generation when you hold a speech trek. Okay, so the big question is, virtual or in person? And again, it depends on your district. Even if you were able to hold an in-person contest, you might consider virtual anyway, because there are certain benefits when you really think about it that a virtual contest offers. For one thing, it eliminates any problem with getting the students to your venue. Okay, they're going to be speaking from their home. In fact, you don't even need a venue when you have a virtual contest. In addition, if we can have the next bullet, thank you. It increases your contestant participation. I know that some of the students, especially those who were ninth graders, for example, 14 years old, they often, if they couldn't get a ride to the contest or they couldn't get transportation, they couldn't participate. This eliminates that in a virtual contest. I had one branch already tell me they are very excited because this expands their pool of judges. They're going to hold a virtual contest, and they know judges. They have colleagues in other states, and they're going to ask them if they could be a judge. Fantastic. What a great idea. They can do it. I told them, tell them they can do it in their pajamas when they're judging, which is true. You don't have a need for a videographer at a virtual contest because you'll be doing it with a video conferencing tool, which includes, of course, recording their speech. So you can see that there are some real benefits to a virtual contest that makes it quite attractive. The problem is that some people are having is that things are changing all the time. I mean, this was last week. This article talking about, okay, most California schools will not be open. That was last month. Next slide, please. This was last week. Oh, wait, no, we're wrong. They've agreed on this schedule. There will be some hybrid approaches. This is AAUW, which is Los Angeles. That was last week. So you can see why there's confusion. So we think that offering a virtual contest is probably going to be very, very helpful. Whether it's virtual or in person, though, the topic, of course, remains the same. Has social media helped or hindered the breaking down of barriers for women and girls? There is more information on this topic in your branch toolkit. Talks about where the topic came from, gives a little history about it. And I think you'll find it very fascinating to get started. And this topic really does check all the boxes because not only is it mission-based, but it's also very relevant for teenage speakers, especially. So how do you get started? Here's how you get started. Excuse me. First thing is, find someone in your branch that is excited about this program. They were a teacher, they love to speak, they're a communicator, they're very passionate about helping kids become better communicators. They would be a great speech trek coordinator or a chairperson, okay? So that's the first thing you wanna do is get somebody who is excited about it and can recruit a few other people to help her out. The next thing you wanna do is go to our website. You wanna go to the website because there's materials there that are roadmaps for you. So you go to the website and you're going to download or print the three things. Well, two things for sure. The branch toolkit, which is there now. The student toolkit, which I am currently updating, that will be there in the next week or so. And the last thing is the policies and procedures. If you have any questions in that area, that is also up there. And they're all called 2021 toolkit for the branch and policies and procedures. The next thing you want to do is, if you decide, yes, I think this is just what we're looking for, then in the branch toolkit is an MOU, or Memorandum of Understanding. Get that in the mail by November 1st, or you can email it, and that lets us know that you intend to hold a speech trek. So that's how best way to get started. Okay, now in the branch toolkit, there's 2 mandatory forms. One of them I already mentioned, the MOU. The other one, which is due November 1st, the other one is when you have a winner, a first place winner, you notify us by March 1st, okay, by March 1st. And you will, we have some examples of those forms, what they look like. I'll give you a quick look at them. First, I'll give you a look at the MOU just real quick.
Actually.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so that we will in a moment. The branch has the 2 forms. The contestant also has 2 mandatory forms found in the both the branch toolkit and the student toolkit, both. They have this. So the first form is an affidavit. Oh, I'm sorry, can you go back, please? Back a slide, thank you. Affidavit of eligibility and liability. This is a must mandatory form, and it lets us, gives us permission to use their likeness, for example, on our website, and that they are a high school student, and they fill this out. And the second form is their parent permission, basically. If they're under 18, we do need the parent to give us permission, and that is also a mandatory and needed prior to the contest. And that's found also in the student toolkit. Thank you. Okay, so the MOU, it looks something like this. And I think it's 2.5 pages or so. Those of you who are familiar with Tech Trek, this is modeled after that. And yeah, this is the first page of it. You just fill it in the blanks, basically. And there's a place for your president and your branch speech trek coordinator to sign it and date it. And that's it. And that, again, is found in your branch toolkit. In the student toolkit, this is the affidavit of eligibility and liability release. And you'll see that at the end of this form, there's a place for the student to sign. Okay, so you see down there, it says signature of contest participant and the date they sign it. And then I would like them to type or print the name. I have to tell you, oh my gosh, handwriting has gone out the window. So sometimes it's very hard to read what people are writing. So we ask that you please print it again and with their telephone number. Now, I'm going to go ahead and address this issue, Social Security number. It's on there. The reason it's on there is because if and when a contestant wins money, for example, like at the state level where there are cash prizes, then we need their Social Security number per IRS regulations. If at your branch level you do not give money as a prize, then we don't need it. Okay, so if they balk at this, they don't want to do it, I completely get it. It's not necessary unless there's money involved, a cash prize. They could also choose to put just the last 4 numbers, or they can say we'll supply when necessary, or just, they could leave it blank if necessary. But at the state level, for sure, when there's money involved, cash money, we do need that for per IRS regulations. Okay, so you've picked a chairperson, you've got a committee, you're ready to go. What do you need? Well, whether it's virtual or in person, you're going to need contest officials. And by officials, I mean judges, preferably, depending on your number of contestants, several judges. You'll need a timer. Although virtual, you may have a timer already installed. You may not even need a timer for that, but you need some way to keep time. You'll need someone to host the contest or to run it, and someone to count ballots if it's in person, or someone to count ballots if they're emailed to you if it's virtual. So you need those contest officials. The next thing, of course, you need contestants, and we're going to talk about how you can recruit contestants in a virtual environment. For sure, we'll give you some ideas on that shortly. And you're going to need an audience. Even if it's virtual, of course, you guys, many of you have done Zoom, I'm sure, Zoom conferences, Zoom meetings, and you see that you have multiple people. And so you definitely want to have an audience for your contest, your virtual contest as well. And let's see, if you're holding in person, which is looking increasingly unlikely, but you know, just in case, you would need a venue to hold the contest, and you would need a videographer, someone to video the contestants. If it's virtual, of course, then you'll need a video conferencing program such as Zoom. And we're going to take a poll later in the evening to talk to you about that. And you need $25. You need $25. That's our administration fee to help defray cost. And when do you send that $25? You send it along with your winner, your first place winner, which is not due until March 1st. Well, I should say no later than March 1st. That's when you send the $25. And it's nice to have prizes. At the local level, I've seen many different types of prizes. I've seen cash, I've seen gift cards, I've seen certificates, nice certificates you can make on your computer. I've seen, you know, many things like that. So that's totally up to the branch how you want to reward your contestants and how you want to reward and acknowledge your winner. Okay, recruiting judges. The main thing I want to just emphasize again is our policies and procedures do prohibit using AAUW California members. Doesn't mean you can't use outside of California, which is what we do often at the state level, but AAUW California members may not serve as judges. So where do you get them from? Okay, well, we often get them from our community. We've had city councilmen, we've had local business people, we've had other organizations. You can draw from your local government. You can draw from your Chamber of Commerce, other organizations, other women's organizations, retired educators. Like I said, one branch said they have teaching colleagues in other counties, other states, and they're going to call on them. So that's a nice thing about being virtual. You know, the world is really your oyster, so to speak. So you can draw from well outside your community, which is a really nice plus, I think, in a virtual environment. Okay, so how do you recruit contestants, especially in a virtual environment? Well, and this also works for in-person too. One thing is you can start at the top, you know, talk to the school superintendent, and we give samples of emails that you could send out, get their blessing, ask them who they think would be most interested in this type of activity. I'm thinking that a lot of these programs are going to be very receptive because of the situation. It gives, they may even incorporate it, and I've seen this happen, where they've incorporated our contest and our topic into their curriculum. Class discussions I've also seen where the teacher took the topic and made it part of his requirement to write a paper on it, and guess what? So they wrote a paper, so now they converted that into a speech. I saw another teacher make it extra credit. So there's all kinds of things that teachers seem to enjoy partnering with us in this area. If you can't reach a superintendent, you know, go to your local high school principal and talk to them and ask them the same questions. What teachers would you recommend that I contact, or who do you think would be interested in this contest? And they can help you a lot with recruiting contestants. There might be teachers who have a special interest in this topic. Don't forget social media, English teachers, speech coaches, or social media educators, anyone who would have an interest in this topic might be a great way to help you recruit contestants. Let me tell you, I've had homeschools participate. They love us because we help them with their curriculum. They think it's great, and they're very receptive often to this activity with us. You know what? There's even interest groups too. That might be a great way. I had someone contact me last year. She was an advisor to gosh, I'm trying to think what the name of the group was. Let's see. It was a young business leaders, something like that. And she was mentoring a couple of the young people there, and they yeah, sure. So I hooked her up, and she competed and ended up winning, by the way. So anyway, all kinds of interest groups might be a great source of contestants, as long as they're high school age. The only requirement is that they are actively enrolled high school students. And past contestants can be a rich source for you as well. Let them know. The ones that are still in school are eligible, okay? And tell them what the new topic is and find out if they're interested. You can also, I know there are some branches, myself included, we would go into the classroom, of course, to this, now you can't, but let them know, let the teachers know of the program and the topic. And you can ask them if they circulate an interest list and get that back to you by email to see who's interested. It doesn't commit them, it just lets you know that there's interest in it. So that's just some of the ways that will help you recruit contestants. In addition, many schools have an internal intranet where they share information, the PTA as well. So if you advertise on that platform, you know, that might work well for you too. So there's just some tips on helping you recruit contestants. So before the contestant, you want to make sure you have your officials and your roles all ready to go. Whoever's going to host or MC your contest, you want to make sure they do. And really, a best practice would be for the MC to brief the contestants on things they should be aware of before, right? Like what the rules are, and make sure they understand how the timing is going to work, you know. Make sure that you have received the signed parent permission for them. You want to make sure that they understand how the timing will work and when the contest is, you know, the date and the time, you know, the usual things. Answer any questions. This is just called a briefing, and it's really a best practice. And it's great for the host to do this before, and it helps them connect with the contestants. Now another best practice, you don't have to do this, but I do it, and it really helps your MC out to have somebody separate to oversee the judging, to oversee the judges. I call it the chief judge, but you can call it whatever. But the role of that chief judge is to really help the judges understand what they're looking for, go over the ballot, which is provided for you in the branch toolkit. And it's a good practice to email it ahead of time so they can just take a look at it and get familiar with it. You know, ask you any questions if they do. And the chief judge is also kind of overseeing the other officials, the timer, if there is a timer, for example, if there's someone who's going to be counting the ballots. So that would be a great role for him as well. So again, a best practice, you don't have to do that, but that's just something that will kind of spread the workload around a little bit. Okay, so on a virtual contest, boy, let's see. So I'm going to give you a few bullet points, and then I'm going to toss it to Sandy Gabe, who's our webmaster at the state, and she'll help you understand how to use a video conferencing tool like for example, Zoom. So I don't know, Sandy, do you want me to finish this slide, or you want to take it from here?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So yes, you can use a tool such as Zoom, and it's very similar to any other meeting that you're scheduling. So you use this tool to set up your meeting, and then schedule the contest, and notify your contestants and your judges and your officials of the date and time, and send them the link to join your contest. And you know, you can do that by email, or you can do that by sending an invite. So very, very similar to just how you do a regular old meeting. You're just going to use Zoom as your medium instead of being in a room. So Marlene and I actually talked about how much training we should do today versus asking you a question. So I just want to go over a couple of rules, and then I want to pose a question or two to you. So you're going to schedule your contest using Zoom if you're going to do it virtually, and then you're going to record the contest. And you can either do that on your local computer or you can do it up to the cloud. And then you upload your first place recording to YouTube. And then if you send that URL to Marlene, we're going to distribute those YouTube videos to the judges in a little bit easier way this year. So I am going to break out of here for a moment, and I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to ask a question. So my question to you is whether you're interested in attending a webinar on how to host a speech contest. So you should have a box in the middle of your screen, and if you can just click on yes or no or maybe, we'll get a sense of whether this is something that we should pursue.
Now you mean a webinar on using a virtual?
Yeah, and I'm using the webinar on how to host it using Zoom.
Using Zoom, correct.
Using Zoom, yeah. Okay, so we've got 21 of 37, we're getting close. We have 70% of people answering, a couple more people. All right, it looks like we've slowed down. So it looks like there's, let's see, let me share the results with you. Looks like there are some folks who are either yes or maybe. So I think that Marlene will go ahead and pursue that. And then I have another poll, which is missing. Okay, well, I created 2 polls, but only one came over today. So my other poll, and I guess I'll just reach out to this group after this webinar, is to ask you when you would like, when it would be most helpful for you to participate in this. So September, October, November, December kind of thing. So I'll just send that out after the meeting. Not quite sure why it's not showing up. So I'm going to share my screen again, and we can go ahead and continue, Marlene.
Okay, thanks, Sandy.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that'll be very helpful, everybody, to when we schedule a webinar on how to use a video conferencing tool like Zoom. I think it'll be Zoom to host your virtual contest. I think you'll find that really, really helpful. And even many of you are familiar with it already, but I think you'll be able to see some of the nuances when it comes to a virtual contest. So thank you, Sandy, for doing that.
You're welcome.
Can we clear the screen of the poll?
Oh, it's still there, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
Let me see. Stop sharing results. Okay, did it go away?
One more has to go away.
Oh, you know what? I'm going to launch the second poll.
Oh, here we go. Oh.
There, I found it. See,
hey, very good.
Every day. So if you have a preference, you know, based on when your competition is going to be, it would be helpful to do it, you know, close to when you're going to do your contest, so that it's fresh in your mind. So if you just let us know what works best for you based on when you think you might have your contest. Okay. Got a few more to go here.
And this doesn't lock you in. We're just trying to get an idea.
Yeah, yeah, we're just trying to see when works for most everybody. Okay, looks like we've got the same number of people, so I'm going to end the polling. And it's pretty much a dead heat. So maybe we'll have a couple. Maybe we'll do one in the September-October timeframe and one in the November-December timeframe. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my results. Did it clear off your screen?
Yeah, it did. Thank you.
Okay. All right, there you go.
Thank you, Sandy, so much. I can't thank Sandy enough for all her technical expertise, and you'll find it so helpful. Thank you, Sandy, once again. By the way, I meant to tell everybody that those 2 little twin boys, those 2 little twin babies that we saw at the beginning, I do have a translation for you at the end of our program. So how did we get to our topic this year? Being an educational organization, I got to include a little, education here. So here's a brief course, a brief history of communication. And I'm going to give you a brief history of media and then a brief history of social media. So let's go to our brief history of media.
It doesn't want to advance. There we go.
There we go. Okay, so here's a phone that my sister has when, she's about 6 or 7, or my nephew, my niece, okay? Moving on. And there's a phone that I had when I was 6. You may recognize a little Fisher-Price toy. Yeah, moving on. And here's the phone my dad had when he was 6. Actually, my husband said he had one too, just like that. So, that's true of, telephonic communication, but media too has had a really interesting genesis. Go ahead. Okay. So if we can just go down, and you'll see as we go down the little history row here that at first it was hundreds of thousands of years to get from one medium to another. Then it was hundreds of years. Then it was decades. And finally down to the web browser, it only took about 10 years, from when we entered the information, what we call the information age, to the web browser. If you can believe that, that was 1995. Okay, so that's a brief history. And the thing to note here, of course, is that it went from hundreds of thousands to hundreds to decades. But since 1995, it hasn't been that way at all. And of course, we're all aware of that, but it is sometimes shocking to see it in print. So since 1995, you can just go right down the list. It wasn't hundreds of years or decades even. In fact, sometimes it wasn't even years, it was months to go from one social media platform to another. And of course, that's kind of boggles the mind, and that's why some of us feel so a little bit disheveled, a little bit discombobulated. So the history of social media, of course, is much, much quicker. By the way, a fun fact of that last one there, and I stopped at 2010. Of course, since 2010, oh my gosh, the last 10 years, forget about it. I didn't even put it up here. I can't even keep up with it. I mean, TikTok and this and that. I just didn't keep up with it. But the interesting thing about Instagram, I didn't realize this, but it's a combination of 2 words. What was instant camera and telegram. I just didn't realize that. That's where Instagram comes from. Just a fun fact. Okay, so social media, of course, has done a lot of good things, but there's a lot of troubling aspects to it too. But regardless, I'll give you one other fun fact. My degree is in communications. I'm going to condense 4 years of study to 3 bullet points. Are you ready? Here we go. Here's the 3 basics of communication. No matter a speech, writing, impromptu, prepared, whatever, there's 3 things you have to have. You must have if you want effective communication. Number 1, it has to be organized. Has to be organized. Okay, otherwise it's just a mess. Okay. Number 2, you have to have a purpose. It must achieve a purpose. And the purpose, of course, there's myriad purposes. You have to ask yourself, is it to inform? Is it to persuade? Is it to educate? Is it to congratulate? Is it to analyze? And on, many, many different purposes, but it must have at least one purpose. And the last bullet is the most important perhaps of all. It has to be reliable. It has to be credible. And this is true in the workplace, true in relationships, true on the platform, because if it's not reliable or credible, then the other 2 don't matter. So these are the 3 basics of communication. This is just something helpful to remember as you go about your day. So social media, our topic came from all of this. And it's in the toolkit, as I mentioned. It's described as the great unplanned experiment. And that phrase comes from a psychologist who's been studying this. And people have been studying social media and the good, the bad, the ugly. And she talks about the great unplanned experiment. And so that was the genesis of how we got this topic. And when I workshopped the topic with teachers, they thought it was a great idea as well, and so did our committee and so forth. So that is where where it comes from. And if you don't think it's current enough, if it wasn't current enough, Prince Harry and his wife Meghan have just launched a campaign just a few weeks ago. And you can look at, in fact, here it is if you want to see it. He talks about how social media is dividing us, but that together we can redesign it. And he has some pretty interesting things to say about it. So this might be a great source of information for your contestants too, as they do their research on this topic. So has social media helped or hindered the breaking down of barriers for women and girls? Only one way to find out. Have a speech track at your branch. Any questions, Sandy, that we can answer?
Actually, Marlene, I think we have a couple of questions, but before we get to those, I wondered if you want to do the questions first, or if you wanted to do our interpretation of the first video.
I have, okay. Sure, we can do a 30, yeah, I have a 30-second translation if you want to see it, sure.
And then we'll go to questions.
Okay, so this is a 30-second translation. Watch the captions.
Earlier this week, I showed you a video of adorable twins talking, and we hired some experts who were able to translate their baby talk. And it turns out they were talking about April Fools.
All right, I'm going to stop sharing, and we'll have you on the full screen. And I want to, before we get to the questions, just introduce Randa Blanding and Tracy Clark. They are on the communications team. Tracy is the director for communications this year. Randa is the publisher of the Board to Board, so you've probably seen her messages. And I'm Sandy. And so Tracy and Randa have been looking at the questions as they are in the chat, or excuse me, in the Q&A. So Tracy or Randa, if you want to unmute, you can pose the questions that are still unanswered.
I'll start it out by saying, can you DocuSign the form?
Which form?
The application forms, I assume.
And by DocuSign, you mean a digital signature?
Right, that's what I'm assuming.
I would imagine. I would imagine that would be okay.
Okay. Is a branch required to offer coaching?
No. But however, some branches find it a really good practice to offer that. It engages the students and helps some of the more reluctant students with a little confidence building, but is it a requirement? No.
We were discussing this, I think, the other day. How can they do the timing? How do you suggest they do timing?
Right. Oh, I meant to bring. Well, I know
Like
that's
this. With a green card and a red card, we'll go low tech on this.
I meant to bring it. You can do it the old-fashioned way, and I have it. I'm sorry I forgot to bring it, but yes, you can do it the old-fashioned way with red, yellow, and green cards, and you can hold it up. Or in our webinar that's coming up on how to use Zoom, there might be a timing device. Yes, Sandy, there might be a timing device.
Yeah, Zoom has not included a timing device as of yet. So unfortunately, you'll have to just do the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, which is very easy. I mean, it's very easy to see, and I think that'd be fine.
Another question is, what if the students undocumented? What did they do about their social security number?
Wow, that's a good question. It only becomes an issue if they win money, and I'm going to write that down to find out if they do win money, what happens with no social security number. I will find that out. Great question.
Okay, somebody was suggesting that we not go to the school districts or to a superintendent because they're very busy at this point in time. So the person was suggesting that they should go directly to the department heads, like to the school, to the English, to drama, and so forth.
Sure. That's fine. That'd be great.
Tracy, you want to pick up some?
There's one question here about, do most branches give monetary awards to the winners? Do you have any idea?
You know, I don't know every branch, but I know some do, but it's not, you know, required. Some give a small amount, you know, 25, 50, 75. Some raise more money. Those who've done it a long time are more entrenched, and they do give cash prizes, but you don't have to, you know.
Mhm. Okay, I think that was it for our questions.
Okay,
Wow. You did a great job, Marlene.
Mhm.
I guess so. I think I have one more slide.
Yes, we do have one more slide. I'm not sure if you do. I know that I do.
I do too.
You do. Oh, yes,
yeah.
you do. Yeah, hang
Yeah.
on. Let me,
Well, while she's getting that, I just want to say, you know, I'm really happy to be helping you out. I'm available to help on a one-on-one basis. I'm available to Zoom into your branch if you have any questions. We're going to set up a webinar to help you with the technical side of a virtual contest. So find that person in your branch that's excited about this topic, excited about Speech Trek. And I just want to say congratulations. You're ready for launch. You passed Speech Trek 101, and I hope you all have a blast.
thank you, Marlene. I really appreciate, and I'm sure that the folks who are on the call today really appreciate the time that you put into preparing this and getting everybody ready to have a successful launch.
Yep.
I did want to also share, we have some upcoming webinars. These are located on the top of our website. On the very top menu bar, there's a little place that says 2020-2021 webinars, and it has a list of all the webinars, the ones that are completed. If you highlight, if you look at their title and you click on it, it will take you to the recording of that webinar. It'll take you to all the materials. If it just has register now, then you'll be able to register for that webinar. So we have 3 that are upcoming, another one in August. It's hard to believe it's August. On racial injustice, understanding it, recognizing it, and talking about it. And that'll be on August 26th. Our next 2 in September will be on the 14th, which is about waging a successful get out the vote campaign in the time of COVID. Very timely for what we've got going on right now, and you'll get some really good tools and tips for how to make that happen. And then later in September, we have Show Me the Money. So many of you are facing the fact that we can't do our fundraisers in person anymore. So we're going to share some ideas about how you might address that this year. So those are upcoming ones, and I think that that's probably all that we have.
I do have one final question that came in.
Okay.
When will we have a new Speech Trek logo?
And I hope soon. I hope soon. We are working on that now, and we welcome suggestions. But we are working on that, right, Sandy?
Yes, we are. Yes.
So thank you for asking. Yeah, we're looking forward to that. And the last thing I'll say is I want my mailbox to overflow with MOUs.
Yay. All right. Okay. Well, thanks everybody. And that concludes our presentation today. So go forth and get your speech contest moving.
Thank you very much. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye, everybody.